And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last weekend.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about.
Whoopi Goldberg just cracked, and it happened live for the whole world to see. No, it wasn't heat stroke. It was Charlie Kirk dropping hard truths like he mistook The View for open mic night at a Logic roast. One moment she was smug and confident. The next she looked like she'd seen a ghost wearing a Turning Point USA hoodie. What did Charlie even say to leave her blinking like someone yanked her teleprompter? Grab your popcorn, because this was a debate, it was a detonation. The meltdown had more spice than a Real Housewives reunion hosted by Ben Shapiro in a wig. Buckle up, this one's unforgettable.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo-Nazis.
Whoopi, yeah, the self-declared empress of daytime drama, sits on her plush chair like at a throne, dishing out hot takes like their gospel. For years, she's ridden high on her signature, I'm always right energy. So strong, you could bottle it and light up Times Square. She's built a fortress of smug monologues, applause-backed sermons, and a media bubble where pushback rarely makes a dent. But not today. Today, that bubble popped, loud enough to make the internet gasp. Enter Charlie Kirk. Not exactly the first name you'd expect to shake up daytime TV royalty, but shake it he did. No studio appearance, no polite sparring match across a coffee table. Charlie didn't even step foot in the same zip code. He just hit record on his podcast, pulled out a stack of receipts, sipped his coffee, and launched his response like a missile. The trigger? One of Whoopi's signature smug takes, wrapped in applause, giggles, and synchronized nods from the rest of the View crew. But Charlie caught what they didn't. A crack in the logic, a messy slip-up hiding in plain sight, like a sign reading, clap back here. And clap back he did, with surgical precision. No yelling, no chaos, just calm, focused heat from someone who came armed with facts and wasn't afraid to flip the script. In a world of echo chambers and safe takes, this moment stood out, not because it was loud, but because it was sharp. And it reminded everyone watching that sometimes, all it takes to rattle a throne is someone outside the bubble with the courage to speak plain truth.
Welcome back. You know, in Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, the state...
First came the precision strike. Charlie Kirk didn't just clap back. He dissected Whoopi's entire argument like a surgeon with a scalpel. No shouting, no theatrics, just calm, methodical breakdowns that made thousands of frustrated media watchers feel seen. He did what people have been waiting for someone to do for years, actually check the facts. And he didn't just check them, he weaponized them, armed with receipts. Charlie sliced through the flimsy walls of Whoopi's take like they were made of styrofoam. This wasn't a simple contradiction. He built an entire IKEA bookshelf of counterpoints. Step by step, diagram included, even the awkward wooden pegs that never fit. And the best part? He delivered it all with the quiet confidence of someone who knew the clip was going to break the algorithm before dinner. The facts didn't just disagree with Whoopi. They breakdanced on her argument like it was a viral YouTube challenge. Her polished soundbite got flipped, remixed, and memed so fast it became a digital flash flood. Instagram Reels exploded. TikTok creators stitched their own takedowns, YouTube Shorts piled on, and Reddit turned into a wildfire threads. Internet sleuths even started digging through Whoopi's past takes like cultural archaeologists.
But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk.
Even people who had to watch The View since Obama's first term suddenly had strong opinions, because Charlie Kirk had ripped the curtain back. And what was behind it? Just a tower of smug opinions stacked on a shaky foundation. And the fallout? Chef's kiss. Then came the questions. Not the safe, soft ones. These were dangerous. The kind that made producers sweat. Stuff like, wait, did she just make that up? And how did that even get applause? That's when it began. The slow hiss, the deflation of the shiny daytime TV bubble that had floated untouched for years. See, Whoopi wasn't roasted in some studio face-off. She was digitally peeled back by a guy who never even entered the building. Suddenly, her so-called safe space didn't feel so safe. The studio, once bulletproof with pre-approved talking points and synchronized nods, started to feel exposed. You could hear it in the fake laughs, the awkward pauses, the punchlines that landed with a thud. Something had shifted. And Whoopi, she was still in her seat. Same delivery, same signature head tilt. But the energy, it wasn't the same. That bold fire had dimmed. Her presence felt like a highlight reel on loop, trying to recreate the magic while quietly scanning the room, silently asking, asterisk, y'all still with me? Asterisk.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. But I said this to our team. I said working people, the muscular class, including working women, they are...
Because here's the thing. It was never just about Charlie Kirk's words. It was about the shift he sparked. He proved something much bigger. You don't need flashing lights, a glam squad, or a chorus of co-hosts to call out nonsense. All it takes is a camera, a Wi-Fi connection, and the guts to say what everyone else has been quietly thinking. No shouting, no theatrics, just facts, delivered with such clarity, they shatter the illusion on contact. Because once you see the holes, you can't unsee them. Charlie didn't need to raise his voice. He spoke with the calm confidence of someone who already knew he'd won, like a guy reading out spoilers to a movie you didn't even know was over. While The View leaned on applause breaks, commercial cues, and polished segues, Charlie brought nothing but cold, ruthless logic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was passive-aggressive perfection, like a cat swiping a glass off a table without blinking. Smooth, intentional, savage. And the wild part? It landed. Hard. Right after that moment, something shifted. The internet, home of digital drama and meme warfare, picked up on it fast. Clips of Charlie's calm takedown spread, like secret files. YouTubers dropped videos with titles like asterisk, did Charlie Kirk just end The View? Asterisk and asterisk, how one clip shattered the illusion. Asterisk Twitter threads got messy. TikToks exploded. Even casual viewers began to notice the cracks, recycled arguments, surface-level takes, and that worn-out moral high ground routine that used to skate by on charisma alone. Now, it's looking a lot more like a script everyone's finally stopped believing in.
Now we begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo-Nazis who showed up outside the event.
But let's be clear, Whoopi didn't fold. She didn't cry, storm off set, or have a full-blown meltdown. She stayed in her seat. She kept talking. But something in the air had shifted, and it was impossible to ignore. This wasn't the kind of breakdown you could cut into a soap opera-worthy clip. It was quieter, slower, more painful. The kind where the next hot take doesn't land with applause, But with silence, you know the energy's off when a dramatic mic drop line is followed not by cheers, but by a cough. No laughter, no crowd reaction, just an awkward pause and a distant off-camera stare, like she's looking for backup and no one's home. That's the sting of losing the crown in the court of public opinion. No one tells you. You just look around and realize the room's gone quiet. Even the producers seem to feel it. The topics suddenly got safer. The once fiery monologues toned way down. Punchlines felt rehearsed, like they were pulled from a memo titled Asterisk. Let's not go viral again for the wrong reason. Asterisk. And that's the brilliance of Charlie Kirk's move. He didn't storm the gates. He didn't need to. He simply cut off the oxygen. No face-off. No messy back and forth. Just calm, one-sided exposure with sniper-level precision and magician-level flair. He didn't argue, he revealed. And that hit harder than any shouting match ever could. Because this time it worked. Not because of who Charlie is, but because he said what millions were already thinking, that the polished power of daytime TV might just be all surface and no depth.
You let them in and you knew what they were. Right. So you are complicit. I want to make a quick clarification about the neo-Nazi Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical, that you embraced them at your thing, I felt.
Well, fast forward to this morning. The host apologized before quickly cutting to
This wasn't about politics. It wasn't red versus blue. It was raw logic versus overproduced fluff. And when that logic finally logged on with a decent Wi-Fi signal, the viewers woke up. They realized they'd been clapping for catchy phrases that crumbled the second you actually looked them up. The loudest moment in all of this? The silence. Not just from Whoopi, but from the entire machine that used to back her without hesitation. That silence was deafening. No rebuttal, no damage control, just a quiet freeze frame. Because really, what could they say? The proof was right there. The logic was airtight. Any comeback would have been like tossing a match into a bonfire, guaranteed to explode even bigger. So what did they do? Exactly what big media always does when the spotlight turns into a heat lamp. They blinked and just kept rolling. But the internet doesn't forget. It doesn't move on just because The View did. Weeks passed, segments changed, but that video, still everywhere, still reposted, still referenced. It became a symbol, a digital receipt for the moment the curtain slipped. That moment when Whoopi's untouchable aura took a direct hit. No chaos, no shouting, just surgical precision so sharp. It didn't leave a mark, it left an echo. And Charlie, he didn't gloat, he didn't circle back. He just dipped, like a man who bulldozed a house and didn't bother to look back. That's how today's takedowns work. They don't need volume. The internet handles that. One clean clip, one undeniable point. And suddenly, you're not arguing with a person anymore. You're up against a tidal wave of memes, stitches, edits, and quotes.
Sean, something that struck me in the cease and desist letter was the sentence that specifically The View host insidiously and cavalierly stated that TPUSA let the neo into its event, metaphorically embraced them, and it went on. Insidiously and cavalierly. And I felt that perfectly summed up exactly what those women were saying, which is something so deeply toxic and also so lightly thrown out there.
And so false. I mean, these were protesters outside of the event, right? They couldn't get in. These were not neo-Nazis inside of Turning Point USA. They were protesting outside on public grounds, and Turning Point tried to remove.
And Whoopi, for all her poise, all that showbiz confidence, didn't just face Charlie Kirk. She ran straight into the one thing no celebrity can spin their way out of, a timeline that receipts everything. No yelling, no chaos, just that cold, hollow realization that no matter how loud you talk, the receipts talk louder. This wasn't just another spicy internet moment. It was a shift, a cultural wake-up call. The kind where someone finally tells you, your live, laugh, love decors and deep, it's just painfully cringe. This wasn't online noise. It was impact, armed with nothing but Wi-Fi and the confidence of a guy who definitely overuses PowerPoint slides. Charlie Kirk pulled off what no social media feud, no on-air walkout, no blue-check meltdown ever could. He cracked the illusion, the myth that talk shows like The View are untouchable temples of truth. Done. Let's be real, daytime TV has been coasting for years, like it's the Vatican of hot takes. Flashy sets, manufactured outrage, applause buttons more obedient than a labradoodle in obedience school. Hosts could toss out half-baked opinions and backwards logic and still get cheered like they just cured world hunger. Logic wasn't welcome. But volume? Volume got a standing ovation. Then Charlie slid in. No invite, no tantrum, no stunt. Just him, a camera, and enough clarity to break the fourth wall, like it was made of dollar store glass. And just like that, the illusion didn't just crack, it shattered.
I don't want to say too much, but we're going to have a lot of fun at the Department of Education. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Can I tell you something? Like, I've had quite a few people contact me about that particular post. Like, I'm sure I have 1/100th of what you're getting, but people are contacting me about cabinet posts. I'm like, I got
look,
nothing.
I mean, I'm actually, after this conversation, heading to Mar-a-Lago for a week. And we have a lot to sift through, and if I could be helpful, I have asked. I want to be actively involved in all things education, as you can imagine.
And here's the real twist. It wasn't even what Charlie Kirk said. It was how he said it. Calm, clean, data stacked like CVS receipts. No dramatic music, no flashy edits, no shouting. Just facts, served ice cold. The kind of clarity that doesn't need bells and whistles. Because when the truth is real, it doesn't have to yell. It just lands and leaves a mark. Charlie didn't show up with rage. He showed up with receipts. While the View spun in its usual tornado of applause-backed opinions, he simply pointed at the chaos and said, here's the contradiction. Here's the data. Here's why this doesn't add up. It was like watching someone calmly untangle a gold chain while the other person kept screaming, it's a noose. The vibe wasn't, I'm furious. It was, I'm not even mad, just disappointed. And that tone, way more brutal than yelling. Suddenly, Whoopi, the long-reigning queen of midday commentary, didn't look so untouchable. She didn't even look controversial. She looked human, flawed, like someone who'd gone too long without being fact-checked. And it didn't take a rival across the table to do it. It took one guy in a hoodie with a pie chart, showing up to a shouting match with nothing but logic. That was the real twist. When a high-budget, big network segment gets dismantled by a YouTuber in casual wear, that's when the Matrix glitches. That's when you realize the Emperor's wardrobe isn't royal. It's thrifted from a BuzzFeed quiz. And what made it even more iconic, Whoopi wasn't even there. No cameras on her face. No dramatic split screen. Charlie dropped his truth bomb from a whole other universe. And the shockwave still hit. No gloves. No ring. Just facts, delivered with surgical chill. The next day, that studio chair squeaked a little louder. Not because she was rattled, but because the illusion had cracked. She didn't get wrecked in a live debate. She got eclipsed in a monologue she never saw coming. In a timeline where Google searches exposed more than zingers ever could. That's the real plot twist. Whoopi didn't have to prove the moment. The internet didn't wait for her permission. Echo chambers don't warn you when the echo stops.
Do you think if a liberal came to speak at University of Kentucky, they'd give an open mic like I just did to a conservative and had a discussion like this?
I certainly hope they would.
No, they wouldn't. Because speech is not a left-wing value. That is why they have to deploy shock troops called Antifa to go after everywhere I go. When I go to University of California, Davis next week, there has to be 120 police officers because of the threats, the violent threats of liberals that want me dead, that want to disrupt our event.
Suddenly, The View wasn't just a talk show, it was a case study. Viewers weren't just clapping. They were analyzing, replaying, and breaking it down like digital detectives. When the truth hit, there were no fireworks, no dramatic outbursts, just a quiet roast powered by Wi-Fi memes and too many contradictions. That's the real power of quiet takedown. No stage, no mic drop, just one clean fact dropped in the timeline like a pebble, and suddenly, the whole applause machine wobbles. No yelling, no viral meltdown. Just the weight of truth crashing into a tower built on recycled talking points. Now, the big question isn't whether Whoopi will recover. Of course she will. It's TV. Everyone gets retakes, reshoots, and rebrands. The game resets daily. But that's not the point. The real question is, will the audience ever unsee it? Can they still clap the same way, nod along like nothing ever cracked? Because once you've seen behind the curtain, it's hard to pretend the wizard's still magical. Once the trick's exposed, it's just wires and smoke. So, the next time Whoopi delivers one of those dramatic eyebrow-raising speeches, like it's gospel from the mountaintop, just remember, somewhere out there, a camera is rolling, a podcast is uploading, and someone's calmly running the numbers. No drama, just data, just truth. And the internet? Oh, it'll be watching. Thumbs ready, calculators out, memes in the drafts. This wasn't just a takedown. It was a digital wake-up call. And it didn't need to scream to shake the room. If you're tired of the noise and here for the receipts, go ahead and hit that like button, smash subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.